Hello, David from Guitarist here. Today we are looking at the new Sceptre Ventana Deluxe, designed by Gary Levinson, who's a name you may remember from the Blade guitars. Basically, Gary designed this guitar and it was built in China based on a very famous American 1950s guitar, which I'm sure you all know. Basically, if we run through the spec, you've got a maple neck, obviously. The body's kind of interesting because it's actually alder with a very thin ash veneer on the top. Because, as you probably know, the Sunburst originals were ash to show the rather splendid grain. And that's exactly what's happening here. But obviously, ash, there are problems, as we know, with supply in ash, owing to disease, I believe, in the United States. So this is a very thin veneer to give you that sort of grain pattern. Basically, it's an HSS configuration, but interestingly enough, if you take off the scratch plate, which obviously we're not going to do, underneath it is actually routed out for a humbucker in the neck as well. So if you want to swap scratch plates and mod the pickups and everything, the world's your oyster. You can have 3 single coils, you could have humbucker single, anything you want, which is actually quite a nice feature. Instead of having the master volume and 2 tone controls, you've got just a master volume and a master tone, which looks after all 3 pickups. But on the tone control, you've got a coil tap, which splits the humbucker to give you more of those usual sounds that you might expect in the in-between positions. Now, as far as the pickups are concerned, the humbucker here is actually quite hot. I think it comes out about 13.5 on a meter. These are also wound a little bit hotter as well. They come out around the 9 mark, whereas a normal guitar on which this is based would come out more like 6.5, coming up to the 7 mark. So in other words, all the pickups are a little bit hotter than they would normally be. The trem is a Trevor Wilkinson design. In fact, the pickups are built also by Wilkinson. The hardware tends to be Trevor's design. You've got a pop-in trem arm, steel blocks on the trem. Everything that you'd expect, basically. Nice sort of pearloid type of scratch plate, just to give you a bit of snaz on there. We'll go through the pickups one by one, see what they sound like. At the moment, I've got the volume wound down, so you're going to get this sort of wind it up a bit. So you can see it actually heats up between 8 and 10 on the dial, which is quite handy for playing rhythm sounds, switching over to lead. If we coil tap it by pulling on the tone control, then you've got more of a, let's stick it on 8 again. You've got noticeable volume drop, of course. Wind it up a bit. Heats up quite nicely. If you put it obviously now between these 2 pickups, you've got the very familiar which is everything you'd expect it to be, really. But it's nice the way that these pickups actually balance out. So nice and focused, I suppose you can say. Pop the humbucker back in and again we've got the heat back, but it's not overwhelming, which is nice. Moving on to the middle position now, you've got a nice It's nice, robust, quite fat. And the in-between position of these two. And the neck pickup. Nice and creamy, everything you'd expect from the neck pickup on a guitar of this design. Other features include a slightly cut away part of the body on the heel there to make reaching to the upper frets a bit easier. You've got a modern 9.5 radius neck as well, so you've quite nice in order to, you know, get the bends in, as it were. Not much else I can tell you really. So probably the best thing to do is to have a little bit more playing.